Great. Let's just give it a minute for people to start joining, and then we can get started with introductions. Awesome. I see a couple of people have joined, so let's get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to introduce our speakers for this session, Sarah Fraser from AutoIgnite Management and Tracy Capriotto from Remarkable Results Radio. Today, they'll be talking about how to keep your engine running, stress management, and burnout prevention, a super important topic for sure in today's industry. If you have any questions during the session, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section below. And with that, it's over to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you guys for joining us today, for spending a little bit of your Friday afternoon with us. My name is Sarah Fraser. I'm the Vice President of AutoIgnite Management, where we do everything from business coaching to service advising coaching to helping shops find talent, which is what I spend most of my day doing, is helping shops find service advisors and technicians. So I'd love to tell you that I know nothing about stress and burnout, but it's the exact opposite. I know a lot about it, which is why I really wanted to write some content on this topic and be able to share it with you guys today. And I'm so honored to be here alongside one of my best friends in the industry, Miss Tracy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Capriotto, the director and producer of Remarkable Results radio podcast. We are celebrating our 10th year of podcasting for the automotive industry. My last name sounds a little familiar. You might know my dad, Carm Capriotto. And together, we are producing 7 podcasts a week. So we have a business coach, Chris Cotton. We have marketing team, Brian and Kim Walker. We have Matt Fonzo. He's in the Bays. We have Hunt Demarest. He is all finances and actually makes it fun to learn about your finances. And we also have Craig O'Neill, a communication specialist. So our library is chock full of great resources and podcasts of your industry peers about leadership and your business and everything in between. So I'm really excited to be here, and thank you again for joining us. Okay, ready, Sarah? Get this started?
I'm ready. Let's go. We got to start our engines and keep them running. So today's title, Keep Your Engine Running, it's really not about the engine under your hood, right? It's about your own engine and keeping that stress under control and not heading into burnout. And that's going to be the theme of everything we talk about today. So if you've ever felt stressed at work or like your job is incredibly stressful, you're not imagining it, you're not alone. Nearly 80% of people in our industry say that their job is stressful. And, I'd like to meet the other 20%. I'm very curious as to what they're doing that they're not feeling that stress. And hopefully we're going to give you some tips and tricks and things to start doing to help you get out of that 80% who feel so stressed all the time. And then what's happening is that also 56% have considered leaving our industry because of burnout. Which brings us into the fact that techs and advisors rank among the highest turnover positions in the workforce. And you guys, this is not just a hiring problem. This is a culture and burnout problem. When your top tech leaves or your service advisors burn out, it's not just an inconvenience. This is disruptive. It affects our workflow, team morale, our customer relationships, and ultimately our revenue. Which brings me to my next point of what is the ultimate cost of burnout in your shop? And I'm not just talking about the dollars from high turnover. It's also missed opportunities from having that poor morale and quality issues. And when we have techs and advisors burning out, and especially if we have owners, leaders, and managers burning out, the entire operation suffers.
Sarah, I wanted to add in here that when we think about the automotive industry, it is a grudge buy for customers. So when someone walks into Best Buy and they're getting a brand new flat screen TV, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. When they're getting their car repaired, they're often disgruntled. They have a negative attitude. It was at the most inconvenient time possible. Now they are down a car. What are they going to do? And oftentimes, people are not budgeting for those unexpected expenses that happen, especially with maintaining your vehicle. So, despite it being a grudge buy, we can also look at it as an opportunity because when someone is at a heightened emotional state, they're also at their most vulnerable. And if we are able to come in and help them have a safe, reliable vehicle the first time and really diffuse a situation, practice active listening, and maybe they walk out the door a little happier than they came in. So that I can sense the burnout can happen so easily oftentimes with customers, but if we'll be telling you some really great tactics in order to combat that. So the problem with burnout. The problem with burnout is it does not happen overnight. It's actually a really gradual process. And it's a combination of not only psychological, but habit and also our culture. So we're often conditioned to just push through, right? I can handle anything. I can handle this. People are busy. I'm busy. And we can often override that with caffeine, with to do lists. But soon enough, we can't do that anymore. And we are often skipping important things like maybe breakfast or lunch, but we say, hey, I'm just busy. Dreading Monday, having the Sunday scaries, well, I just need to get through the week to get through the weekend. We are oftentimes too much rationalizing our symptoms, and soon enough, they become too loud to ignore. Also, let's think about our social culture for a little bit. So, admitting burnout sometimes doesn't feel good. It can be viewed as, wow, I'm displaying a weakness or I'm failing because I'm burned out. So, we often can hide that from other people and we can hide that from ourselves. And being busy is often worn like a badge of honor that, you know what, being overwhelmed, that's part of your job. That's how you know you're doing well. If you're overwhelmed, you don't have a social life, you must be killing it at work. And so burnout can feel almost normal and even a little like admirable, like, oh, well, I'm just super busy. So, what can we do about this? Sarah and I will be talking about different techniques, which include regular check ins with yourself. Learning more about yourself, the signs, your body, your mind is so important with our everyday life, but too often we are not tapping into that at all. We are just in survival mode. It's also important to look for patterns that we have, not just our bad days. You know, you could have a super productive week, you're really busy, you're killing it, you're motivated, everything feels great. You could also have a week where maybe there's not a lot on your plate, but you feel completely unmotivated and overwhelmed. So it's really important to look for those patterns and also to talk about it. Have a safe place with your peers, your mentors, or even your business coach, your family. That is really important in order to be transparent about what's actually going on in your life. So we really need to redefine success to include sustainability and not just being focused on the output. And we'll through this presentation, we're actually going to be talking about how to spot stress before it turns into burnout because believe it or not, stress and burnout are two different things.
They definitely are. And I want to touch on something you said there, Tracy, about being busy, being this like badge of honor. If you think about it, how often are people praised for staying late, skipping breaks, not taking breaks, skipping lunches, working overtime, never taking vacation, never asking for time off? It's that mindset needs to shift. We need to start rewarding balance and not burnout and really encouraging that. So, as Tracy said, stress and burnout are two different things. And Tracy mentioned that burnout doesn't happen overnight. It's something gradual. Stress is a little bit different. Stress can come up in a moment's notice. Stress can happen in front of you. A customer is getting upset in front of you, a conversation with a coworker, you're handed a new task. Stress can happen very quickly, and it's a short-term response to that pressure. And it actually can be helpful because it can drive us. Occasionally it can motivate us, but if it's constant, that's when we lead to this mental, emotional, physical exhaustion, and that's when we're in burnout. That's when productivity is dropping. We just start showing up. We're going through the motions, but the energy we once used to bring is gone. We're mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted, and that's burnout. And that's what happens after too much stress piles and piles and piles and piles on top of each other and doesn't start to get managed. So, identifying stress in yourself and your team. Stress does not show up as somebody typically saying, "Hey, I'm overwhelmed." Like that's not usually what happens. There's typically a lot of quiet signs that lead us to that. It's a hidden behavior, especially when we're in these environments where we pride ourselves on being tough, getting things done, just pushing through, get the job done, right? So there are some things that we can start to notice about ourselves, start to pick up on our coworkers that, hey, this person might be under a lot of stress. And how can we adjust this before that person ends up in complete and full burnout? So some physical signs could be headaches, fatigue. Maybe you got 9 hours of sleep and you still wake up exhausted. That is a sign that you could be heading into burnout or you might already be there. There's some emotional signs. You're irritable. Maybe you have that one technician who is always super, super meticulous, but now they're starting to rush through jobs. They're missing steps. They're starting to make mistakes. They could have had too much stress, too much overwhelm, and are now entering burnout. Maybe you have the person, that service advisor that's always upbeat and happy, and now you start hearing them be a little short with their customers, short with their coworkers. Those are big signs that we need to look at. And then the behavioral signs are also, procrastination, not getting things done. Maybe we're calling in more or we're showing up late, all of those kinds of things. Or maybe we're actually working longer hours, but we're getting way less done. That's where we're heading into burnout. So there's a huge danger when we see these signs in people and we just kind of brush it off as, oh, they're having a bad day or they're just in a mood today. Because if we don't catch this and start to address these early stress signals, they're going to compound and now we're headed into full on burnout. So, as leaders, I just think it's incredibly important that we are tuned into the people around us because we're not just managing productivity, we are managing people. And people bring their whole selves to work. So pay attention to the changes, pay attention to what's going on, check in with your people, and really create and build a space that encourages the ability to admit, hey, I'm not okay. Hey, I might need some support. Hey, I might be a little stressed. So we can be open and have those conversations as we're seeing these signs of stress pile up.
That is something that I know Sarah says to me a lot, that, you know what, life, it's okay to not be okay. And too oftentimes we are stuck into feeling only one feeling. We just want to feel good. And then when we feel bad, uh-oh, something's wrong. How do I feel good? But there is a duality with our emotions that we can feel two things at once. We often do all the time. But when you have that direct parallel of black and white, good and bad feelings, you can be so tunnel visioned on, I just want to feel good. So I'll bring this full circle. Get it? Cycle. I'm going to talk about a cycle. I'm pretending everyone's laughing here, even though I can't see you. Let's talk about the 5 stages of burnout. It's the burnout cycle. So, number one, we get it. It's the honeymoon stage. Everyone knows what that's like. You're doing something new. You have a new job or a new task or new role. You have energy. You're committed to it. You're excited. You're motivated. You feel creative. And you also really feel the sense of satisfaction while you're doing it. Number two is, okay, it's the onset of stress. Maybe our glow is dimming a little bit. We feel a little bit of a strain. We might have some fatigue, maybe a little trouble sleeping, maybe a little bit reduced productivity, and there might be some physical signs happening in terms of maybe some muscle tension, some headaches, forgetfulness as well. This stage is a warning sign. Number three is chronic stress. So now stress is becoming very persistent. It makes things seem even harder than they are. You may feel like you're procrastinating, you're avoiding doing things. You are really relying on caffeine, alcohol, coping mechanisms just to get through. And then even though you rest, you don't feel rested at all. So at this point, your mental and emotional and physical resources are dwindling. That brings us to 4. Uh-oh, burnout. This is the tipping point. Burnout has set in, and now it becomes really difficult to recover and reverse. So this is when you're feeling, as Sarah said, you're feeling emotionally exhausted. You feel maybe a little detached from work or from your personal life as well. It's that feeling of emptiness and hopelessness and complete overwhelming. You feel maybe like you're being a failure or you're being really ineffective. That tunnel vision, the cloudiness is all coming into a big storm. And this may cause some physical ailments besides just headache and a little muscle fatigue. So now stress is more. It's you're depleted. And that brings us to number 5, which is habitual burnout. Now, burnout is your whole personality. It is your whole state of being. You feel completely stuck, but now you're only in stage 5. There's nothing else going on. You have mental and physical fatigue. You are maybe depressed. Maybe your anxiety is through the roof. And maybe you've lost kind of that passion and that drive. And also, you might start isolating yourself. You know, the things that you wanted to do, the things that you enjoy, the people that you enjoy seeing in your life, your family, your friends. Hey, let's go hang out. Let's get a drink. Let's have dinner. And you're no, no, no. I'm not doing that. So when you're in this stage, also your health can have severe issues with prolonged stress. So at number 5, habitual burnout, that is your lifestyle, the quality of your life at home or at work is complete chaos, and this is when we need recovery. We need recovery before this happens, but this is the time where you need the support. So,
Tracy, I kind of want to, can you hop back to that for a sec? I want to kind of walk you through this cycle looking at an employee. So you've got a new employee that joins you now. They're in the honeymoon phase. They're excited to come to work. It's new, it's a new opportunity. They get to learn and meet new people. We look at the onset of stress, they want to prove themselves. They want to prove what they can do and what they bring to the table. So they're saying yes to everything when maybe they shouldn't be. And then their plate starts to get full. They start to get stressed. They start getting into overwhelm. We head into burnout, as Tracy explained. And then what we see that when this habitual burnout happens, that's when people are leaving our industry. That's when people leave the industry altogether. So we really do need to start recognizing the signs before we get through this entire cycle.
all right, what are your signs? If you feel comfortable, please add that into chat. Maybe it's you have loss of appetite. Maybe you are overeating. Maybe you can't sleep, or maybe you're oversleeping. If you feel comfortable to put it in the chat, this is a safe place to just talk about our feelings and actually recognize them as well.
So I want to share kind of a personal story about not recognizing my signs and not having any ideas. So this was probably about 6 or 7 months ago. I was exhausted all the time and I had no idea why. I would sleep okay and I'd wake up exhausted. I would go to a conference or an event, I'd come home and it would take me 3 to 4 days to be able to function again. I would have days where I literally couldn't get out of bed, but I wasn't sick. I was just exhausted and I had no idea what was going on. So finally, I was like, okay, I'm going to make an appointment. I'm going to go see my doctor. I've got to figure out what's going on with me. And so I went and saw my PCP and, we did all the things. We did all the blood tests. We looked at my blood sugar. We looked at my A1C, all of the things. After all those testings and everything, and I'm sitting back in the office with my doctor trying to figure out what's going on. And she looked at me and she said, I think you should consider seeing a therapist. And I was kind of like, what? What is a therapist? Like, there's something physically wrong with me. What is a therapist going to do? I don't understand. I came in expecting some sort of diagnosis and, ending up getting a referral to work on my mental health was the last thing I expected to get. But here's the thing. My doctor saw what I couldn't. I was not physically sick. I was completely burnt out. My body wasn't malfunctioning. It was just, waving a red flag telling me like, "Hey, you got to slow down." And I didn't see it. I'd been pushing for so long and ignoring the signs and just powering through trying to get to the next day, but I had really gotten to the point that it was going through the motions and burnout doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's just being tired and sometimes it's us thinking that that's very normal. And so getting to understand your signs and being able to reach out and get that guidance to help us move in the right direction It was literally when my doctor told me that, I was like, what is she talking about? I don't need to, like, what is there? How is that going to make me not tired? But I can tell you 7 months later, I am in a completely different mental state. I am not in burnout. I'm able to see those signs before as I'm heading in to back off. And that's part of what really made me passionate about wanting to share this content with you guys today.
And Sarah said it doesn't have to be dramatic. I'll bring the drama. I went to the hospital twice last year due to complete stress and burnout. So for me, it came out physically really, really bad. And I wasn't taking care of myself and I was completely overwhelmed. So you can have a little drama too. And you can't ignore that. You can't say to yourself, you know what, I just got to work out and do more things because there can be an underlying source there. So, thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. Dua, I just wanted to add in, is the chat on? I did get a message saying the chat might be off. I just wanted to shout out that.
Yeah, I'll look into that, Tracy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, so I want to talk through some stress management techniques. So when we've now recognized those signs that we're in stress, I'm dealing with a lot of stress, there are some things that we can do to help us through that. The first one I want to talk about is breathing exercises, which I know it sounds really simple, right? Just take a breath. Just take a breath before you do something. But it's breathing exercises are more than that. It's very intentional. And this is something that I learned in therapy, and it is something I use all the time. If I'm about to make a call that I'm super stressed or, have a lot of anxiety about, if maybe I've just gotten off a call that made me sort of anxious, or maybe I'm about to give a big presentation and I've got some nerves about it, I do breathing exercises. And so I want to walk you guys through one today. This is something that you would do for 60 seconds. We're not going to do that. We're just going to do a little part of it. But when you do a breathing exercise, it should be very intentional and it should be for at least a full 60 seconds. And so the one we're going to do is called box breathing. So we're going to breathe in for 4. We're going to hold it for 4. We're going to breathe out for 4. And we're going to hold it for 4. And normally you would just repeat that over and over again for a full 60 seconds and then go back to regular breathing. So we're just going to do one cycle of it here. So we're going to breathe in for, now hold it for 4. Breathe out for 4. And hold it for 4. Just doing that simple thing over and over again for 60 seconds will ground you, will help you, will kind of give you just that little bit of reset. Another stress management technique that gets overlooked a lot is taking breaks. Because a lot of times it looks like we're super dedicated if we don't take a break or we don't get a lunch, and we feel maybe guilty or bad for doing that. But we really should be encouraging people to take an actual lunch break. Not eating at your toolbox, not eating at your desk, in a break room, away from the shop. We need that time to reset. We need that time to just kind of be able to be us for a minute and check out for a minute. Just that little reset helps us be more accurate, more efficient, and keeps us safer. Actually, being able to take those breaks makes us much, much better. And then setting boundaries. So we're going to talk quite a bit about setting boundaries. This is going to be a theme that comes up pretty often today, but really it's defining what is and what isn't okay. And especially when we're talking about your time and your energy. And so it might look like, hey, I'm not going to answer work texts after 8 o'clock at night. Could be something like that. It could also be something to protect your personal time so you don't always feel on call. You're not always mentally and emotionally there. And as a leader, being able to also model this and then respect it when others have their own boundaries is really, really great for helping us keep our stress in check. And then there's delegation. So if you're the only person who can ever do certain things, you're never going to be able to do the take a break thing that I was just talking about. It's not going to happen ever. You're not going to be able to have boundaries because you're doing everything. So Tracy in a minute is really going to dig deep into delegating and give us some good tips on how to do it and how to do it well. So that's all I'm going to say on that for now. And then asking for help. Okay, I got to be honest. I'm still working on this one. This is hard for me. For me personally, if I have to ask for help with something, in my brain, it feels like I failed. Like I should be able to handle all of this on my own. But I'm learning that that mindset is part of the problem. And it's something that makes us, the idea that needing help makes us feel that we're weak or we're not capable. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And even when I think about this, asking for help, there are so many people who genuinely want to help us, and helping us makes them feel really good. And when we are struggling and we don't do that, that reach out for help, they kind of feel bad, like, "Oh, why didn't you let me help you?" So I'm still working on this, and maybe you are too, but if we can just start to normalize asking for help, and it'll start to help us build a culture where people feel safe speaking up before they break down, and that would just really help our shops be a lot stronger, I think. So asking for help and then shifting your mindset. A lot of this is about how we think about what we're doing. Are we going into this with the mindset of this is something I have to do, or this is something I get to do? This is an opportunity. This is a chance to grow. We can look at a certain task that might be stressing us out and flip it a completely different way. So, changing your mindset is not going to fix everything, but it will definitely help ground you on those hard days and be able to help you get through things and look at life in a little bit of a different perspective. That can definitely ease some stress off of us.
And with asking for help, I know I am not great at that either. Some techniques I try to tell myself is, you know what, if I'm asking for help, it's not shifting my responsibility on someone else and now their plate is overfilled because of me. It is help. And I also like to visualize, okay, if I ask someone for help, they're holding the door for me. They're not carrying a burden. They're holding the door. Shout out Game of Thrones, Hodor, if anyone out there likes Game of Thrones. But I kind of go back and forth with that because it is very difficult for me to say, I need help as well. All right, Delegation 101. Let's get into it. Number one, it's super important to identify the right tasks to delegate. So ask yourself, is this repetitive? Is it time consuming? Is it draining my time but not my talent? And also, is it teachable? Am I able to systematize this and teach someone? If that's the case, then this is probably a good task for you to delegate. Number two, choose the right person for the task. This is very important because let's say you have a very creative task, a marketing campaign perhaps. You want to look for someone that demonstrates already the passion for creativity and match them with that. If a task is maybe more detail oriented, then you're going to want to look for that person that makes sure they cross their T's and dots their I's. That would be a great match for that. So think about it as kind of a little matchmaking. Look beyond their titles or anything like that and look more about the person. What is their curiosity? What is their competence? And what is their passion? But also, what's really important about finding the right person, do they have the bandwidth to take on this task? And that goes back to communication, having a safe place where we can be honest with each other and say, yes, you know what, I can take on this task, or saying, you know what, I am not able to take on this task. And Sarah will get into saying no is okay. So, again, right task with the right person, you're going to have better success with that. Number three, this is very important. Start with the end in mind. If you're stuck in all the little things to get to the end and you're not even thinking about the end, how does the person you're teaching know what the end looks like? What does a successful outcome look like to you? What is the quality? What's the timeline? What's the standard you expect? So, again, it goes back to clear communication. You want to have clarity because that's going to beat assumptions any day. And also, if you have super vague instructions, you're going to have really vague results. Number four, assume they don't know yet and that there is going to be a learning curve. If this is a task they've never done before, there's going to be a huge learning curve, but that's okay. We have to keep in our mind that it's our job to teach and it's not our job to just tell someone what to do. So, kind of reset your expectations that, you know what, progress over perfection, and that if there is a little setback, that's growth, and that's really important as well. Number five, check in, but don't hover. I don't know, but I don't know anyone that can work successfully with someone on their shoulder, breathing hot breath on their neck, you don't want to hover. You want to kind of build that autonomy with this person so they can take ownership of this task. So maybe a check-in can be, hey, you know what? After step 5, I'm going to check in and see how you're doing. Or maybe next week, we're going to have a little check-in. I want to hear what's going on. That also lets a person know that, hey, you're going to be there for support. They're not just on an island by themselves, but that they also can kind of feel it out for themselves, which is really important. Number 6, SOPs, standard operating procedures. If you are a shop owner on this and you have none, or you have something in a book and it's in the corner, dusty and cobwebs, you have to pay attention to this, because standard operating procedures, that's what wins everything. So that comes with actually systematizing and writing out the tasks to the granular aspect. So for example, I have a lot of key commands on my computer that I use with editing. It's now gotten to the point where I'm doing it automatically. I'm not even looking. If Sarah asks me, hey, Tracy, how do you silence the audio track? I actually would have to really think about that, look at my fingers in order to do that. So there's a lot of times when we're delegating and we are writing SOPs, we might be actually forgetting what we're doing automatically, what is habitual. And it's almost like you have to take yourself out of that. And if this is my first time, what would I do step by step? So that is really important, to delegate, educate, and elevate. You want to build a repeatable system, not just a one-time miracle. Kind of think about it like the McDonald's model. You know, they want their cheeseburgers to taste the same in America and Brazil and Asia and Europe and everywhere in between, because they have a system, a recipe that is the same. And that's what we want also in our shops as well. And as a little side note, so I've had shop owners that have had great success with this software called Trainual, trainual.com. It's a software that you actually can digitize your SOPs or your onboarding process for your employees, which is great. That means your employees have that right at their fingertips. Everyone has that maybe on their laptop or their phone. And so it's a great way to move into the digital format. And if anyone wants more information on that, I'm happy to direct you to a couple shop owners I know that would be willing to sit down and talk to you about their experience.
Tracy, I think something else with delegating is it doesn't happen enough because the first time we do it takes so long, right? All of those things you just went through, that's a process in itself. And we
Yes.
get into this mindset of I'll just do it myself, it'll be done quicker. But we have to really look long term. If I take the time to walk somebody else through this today, now I don't have to do it the next 10 times it needs to get done. And that's where we've got to be able to have that. So I think this is a great process, and it is easy to get stuck in that. I'm just going to do it myself. But by doing this, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and you're going to ease up some stress on yourself. So the importance of saying, oh, I actually want to say that Mark let us know that he can 100% relate to burnout and sitting on his stool having his lunch. Mark, I really hope that you get a chance to take a lunch away from the shop. Uh, and I don't know why the chat is not open, but if you guys do have comments, it looks like you can send them through the Q&A part and we'll see them there. So there is that. Okay. So the importance of saying no. Saying no is not about being difficult. It does not mean that you're a difficult person because you're saying no to something. You're really protecting the long-term health of yourself or your people or your reputation or whatever it is, because when we say yes to everything, we are stretching ourselves thin. That's when mistakes happen. And that's when we can start to see ourselves heading back to that burnout. And, talking about boundaries again, saying no sets those boundaries. It helps us protect our time, protect our focus, our mental energy. And really, it helps us show up for the things that really matter, the things that we really need to be spending our time in. I'm sure you can all probably think of a customer or a car that maybe we said yes to and took in and said we could work on it when maybe it wasn't what we normally do and we probably should have said no, right? How much stress could we have saved by not doing that? So Every time you say yes to one more thing that you don't quite have the bandwidth what you're really doing is saying no to yourself, no to your well-being. Maybe if it's your team's bandwidth, you're saying no to the health of that team and the quality of the service that you're typically known for. So yeah, when we say yes to everything, when we're already stretched thin, that leads to burnout. So I'm going to walk you through some ways to get comfortable saying no without having that guilt. So saying no is hard, especially if we're saying it to somebody that we care about. But we have to remind ourselves that saying no is not selfish. And like I said, it's not us being difficult. It's really about protecting our peace, protecting our time and our energy. And so my first piece of advice is to be honest. Don't make up a story. Don't give us a line of BS. Be genuine about why you're saying no. Maybe it's, I would love to help, but I just don't have the time to do that right now. And that takes me to the next point, which is maybe we offer alternatives. Maybe we're not saying no, but we're saying not right now. And the being honest thing too, this isn't just at work. If you get home from work on a Friday night and you're exhausted and you're planning on having this like self-care bubble bath, glass of wine, and your friends message you and they're like, "Hey, we're going to this party." And you're just like, "Now I got to come up with an excuse for why I can't go." Normalize saying like I don't want to. I'm not going to go because I don't want to or because I'm tired and I need to take a break or I need to work on my mental health or I just don't have it in me today. It's okay to be honest about that. So, also practice self-compassion. You know, it's not, that guilt is normal, but it does not mean that we're doing the wrong thing. We're human, we have limits, and protecting our energy today allows us to continue to show up tomorrow. And when we're saying, no to things that we don't have the capacity to, now we're saying yes to our values, our health, our priorities. So just be kind, be honest, be clear, offer those alternatives if we can, maybe not right now. It's okay to have limits and then having those boundaries that I talked about before up front. If somebody already knows that, hey, you're not available on this day, it makes it easier to say no because that boundary has already been set. So with that in mind, you guys don't have to share this in the chat, but you can if you want to. I just want you to think about what is one thing that you said yes to recently that maybe you should have said no to. And then once you think about that thing and what it is, how can you set a boundary around that in the future? What is an upfront boundary that you could create that would prevent you from saying yes to that again so that we can start getting comfortable with saying no to the things that don't, that we don't have the capacity for or that don't help us protect ourselves and our mental health and our peace. So just kind of a little bit of homework, a little bit of food for thought to think about some of the things that you say yes to and how can we set those boundaries to really redirect that in the future.
Another helpful tip for stress and burnout is being able to mentally and physically separate ourselves from work. Otherwise, it feels like one long day and one long night that never ends. So it's so important whether you're a shop owner or you're an employee, you have to separate yourself from work. Otherwise, you're not shutting off. So some tips are, okay, let's think about this. A conscious role switching. So whether that's you're on your way home, you're on your way to work. Before you enter in either doorway, take a little second, maybe do one of Sarah's breathing exercises and try to mentally transition yourself into whatever role you're about to be in. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a spouse. I'm going to be a shop owner. I'm going to be a mechanical specialist. I'm going to be a service advisor. Having that mental kind of reflection can really help set you up for, and this is what I'm going to be doing. Wardrobe change. So I don't know about you, Sarah, but no matter what I'm doing, as soon as I get home, I have to get into my pajamas. Okay. I'm a pajama like junkie. And it's that feeling of transition. So at the end of the day, or maybe you're transitioning into work, it's putting on something different. It's the skin contact, that touch and feel of a different fabric that you've been wearing all day can be really helpful to reinforce that mental transition. Also, tidy up your workspace because not only is that going to set you up for success tomorrow, whether that's your desk or you're in the bays and you're tidying up your tool area. But that also sends a signal at the end of the day that, you know what, I'm putting my stuff away, I'm putting my tools away, and this is me transitioning home. This is me leaving work. Also, be intentional and present. I know it's very difficult. It's damn near impossible to be 100% transition. I'm sorry, my light just fell. If you see that dangling there, it's fine. Be intentional and present with whatever you're doing. And like I said, it's hard to be like that 100%, but I heard a really great metaphor from my friend Kevin Eckler, and he was talking about a pool metaphor, swimming pool metaphor. I'm from Buffalo, so I'm just manifesting like warm weather right now because we have had snow. But you could have two people in the pool at the same time. Someone maybe is diving in head first. They have their floaties on, they're swimming in the deep end. And then someone could maybe just be standing on the step there. They have their little toe dipped in. Now, both those people are in the pool, right? But who's actually swimming? Who's actually diving in? Now, those are interchangeable. There are times when you just maybe want to dip your toe in. There are times you're diving in head first. But when it comes to being intentional and present, think about the pool. I am here at work or I'm here with my family. I have to be here fully and present and not be thinking about work or emails or having that car in the bay that I can't get figured out. Be present to where you are in your environment and communicate boundaries. I know we've been saying that a lot. It's just so important to have boundaries, and boundaries aren't a bad thing, as Sarah was saying. It's not bad at all to have boundaries. It's important, but I think of our culture, we think of boundaries as, uh-oh, that's when you're doing something really bad. I know for me, when I go away to a work trip, I'm communicating boundaries to my friends even. Hey, I'm leaving, so I'm not going to be able to answer 300 texts today about like what you're eating and that meme you saw on Instagram. And I put on do not disturb for that chat or on the time period of my phone. And I know, Sarah, you had a really good example of boundary that you had with your dad recently.
I did, yeah. So this was actually, and I'm sure probably a lot of you, because we see this in our industry, work with family. And it's hard to sometimes separate when it's family time and when it's work time. And so my dad is my boss, but we live in different states and it's not usually been that hard. But I was going down there for a vacation for not a work trip. I was going down to Texas to visit my family and spend some time down there. And I was talking to my therapist before I left, and she challenged me to not talk about work the entire 4 days I was down there. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I'm not gonna be working. That's totally fine. He no longer than my dad picked up my husband and I up from the airport. We're in the car on the way to their house, and four times everything I was about to say, I had to stop because it was work related and tell myself like, oh, nope, not now. And I did not realize how hard it was going to be, but it was so nice. After that first couple of hours, everything was great. And I told my dad up front heading into this, hey, I'm not going to talk about work the entire time I'm down there. And that was me setting a boundary, right? And he fully respected that. And we didn't talk about work. And it was really, really nice. So being able to be able to separate that and have work time and family time, especially if you work with family.
Oops, I'm sorry. Okay. Are you a firefighter? Are you constantly putting out fires? You have to start thinking about this because are you being busy or are you being actually productive? So, if you're not sure if you're a firefighter or not, think about this. Does your day start and end with everything being urgent? Everything is in crisis. Are you busy but you feel like nothing actually gets done? You're having a hard time at the end of the day having any sort of meaningful progress of what did I do today? And you're possibly very reactive instead of being strategic. You're handling things as they come all the time, all the time. It's interrupting your daily flow, what you wanted to get done because you are a firefighter. People are also maybe relying on you as the yes man, yes ma'am. You have to fix everything, which, it can be very, you know what, I want to help my people. I want to be there for them. I want to set a good example, but that can also be exhausting as well. And that means maybe you don't have some systems or structure in place if everyone is asking you for the answers. And you also don't feel like you're growing. You're not having time to learn any new skills, to innovate, to look for the latest and greatest software, to update your processes and procedures to be even better. You just don't have time for that. You're a firefighter. So think about that. Are you just constantly putting out fires, but you feel like you're busy, but at the end of the day, you don't? you might be a firefighter. So, what happens when you're a firefighter? You realize, uh-oh, what am I going to do? How do you go from reactive to, okay, I'm going to have intentional control of my day so my day does not run me. I am running my day. You can identify those fires and their sources. Maybe even keep a little journal of what you're reacting to. What are the fires happening in your shop? Because you will be able to actually look for patterns if you're writing down what's happening, which may bring you to, you know what? There's a source that is wrong with our system, and that's why this keeps happening. If it happens more than once and repeating all the time, then you might have a problem deeper than just a one-time fix it, because that one time is not helping. Shift your mindset from hero to architect. So you don't need to be the hero in every scenario. I know it feels good. It feels good to save the day. But guess what? As a business owner, you want to build your business so it's sustainable without you constantly being in there day to day in the grind with your intervention. So you are trying to empower your people and celebrate them when they do figure things out on their own. And truly, leadership is not just about, I'm going to do it all myself and it's going to be so great. You are building people around you and with you. Measure what matters. We don't have time to talk about metrics in the shop, but it is so important to be sharing what is going on in your business. How are your employees doing? Where do they stand? Think about it like if you're playing a game of football and there's no scoreboard, there's no referees. Well, how does anyone know what they're doing? So it's important to share that with your team and to actually measure what matters. Time blocking. Sarah will get into this in a little bit, but I had kind of a tip with time blocking. Make it kind of fun with theme days. So let's say financials. Oh, I just don't want to do that. Marketing. Oh, I just don't want to make all those social media posts. Well, how about Financial Fridays? Marketing Mondays. Have that as your set time to get that done. Because if you have finances and marketing on your to-do list every single day and you don't want to get it done, guess what? It's not getting done. So kind of focus on a theme day that might help your schedule just a little bit.
So here's an example of my actual calendar for this week. And I just wanted to give you guys a visual of what time blocking can look like. And it's literally just scheduling blocks of time for your day that are not necessarily meetings. They could be tasks, they could be one of the most important things you need to schedule, which is your lunch break, right? Having that, if I don't schedule that in, somebody else will fill that time. It will get taken up. So I have to schedule that out ahead of time. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Just wanted to give you kind of a quick visual. I use colors to color code things and make it easy for me to understand. And then another tool that I use when it comes to organizing out my tasks is a now, soon, and later list. Because if I just write out a task list, it is so long and so overwhelming that I don't know where to start. And then I kind of end up doing the firefighter thing where it's like I'm doing a little bit of this task and a little bit of that task, but I'm not completing anything. And it's like I've been busy all day, but at the end of the day, what I didn't accomplish anything. So by being able to organize the things I need to do into things that I absolutely need to work on right now, top priority, maybe the things that need to happen soon within the next couple of days, and then the things that can happen later. Like I know these need to get done, but they aren't on fire. They don't need to be at the top of my list. And now I have much shorter lists to kind of work through, and it helps me get through things a lot quicker. So practice self-care. This comes back to everything we're talking about with stress and burnout is we've got to take care of ourselves. Self-care is not a luxury. It's truly a necessity. And it's not just bubble baths, right? It's not just bubble baths. Self-care is a lot of things. It's drinking enough water. It's getting enough sleep. It's getting some movement, getting outside in the sun. All of those things tie into self-care. And this is also not selfish. Saying no is not selfish. Taking care of ourselves is not selfish. Healthy leaders build healthy teams, and that's what we need. We need to be taking care of ourselves because you truly can't pour out from an empty cup. And I know that saying is overused, but it's so true that self-care needs to be a habit, not an afterthought. When I've realized that I've stopped taking care of myself, it's too late. I'm already in that burnout mode and I've forgotten to do all of these things. I haven't been drinking enough water. I haven't been getting enough sleep. I haven't been getting out in the sunshine every day. All of those things that really help us stay in tune and take care of ourselves.
I know we're running short on time. I'll just say, everyone, Please make time for yourself, your hobbies, because enjoyment is not selfish. It's actually strategic. Like Sarah said, you want to fill your cup as well, and also really grounds you when you find things that you enjoy doing. And you remember who you are outside of work, and that's so important.
There's also some technology out there that you can use. So app blockers, I'm going to talk real quickly about this. There are blocks or apps. It's so ironic that we have an app to block apps, but it's so helpful. And I use this both ways. I'll use this to block distracting social media apps when I'm working, and I use it to block my work email when I'm not working. There's some other things out there. We've got this little picture of a birdie here. That's from an app called Finch that both Tracy and I have used. It basically gamifies your task list and self-care, and it's cute and it's a lot of fun. And then Headspace is a little orange smiley there, which is a great app for meditation. I mean, 3 to 5 minute meditations that you can do in the parking lot before you go into work. It also is really helpful for sleep. It has sleep stories and things like that. So a couple things to definitely check out in there's a lot of tools out there that we can utilize.
Are we at time? Should I go to the last
I think we
slide?
can wrap up. I think, do we
Okay.
have like 2 minutes that we can?
Yeah, for sure,
Okay.
for sure. You can
Okay.
wrap up.
You go back to the last one.
This one?
Oh, no, one before that. Okay. So not only is the biggest factor in managing burnout what we do, it's also who are we around? And I want you to think about people in 2 ways. You have the faucets and the drains. And the faucets are the people that fill us up, that pour into us, that motivate us, that make us want to do more. And the drains are those people that suck our energy, suck our time, and take a lot of our time, right? And so just kind of be aware of who you're spending your time with and start filling your time up with the people that pour into you. And then we have a little visual here, which is just your medicine cabinet. And I'm not talking about the medicine cabinet in your bathroom. This is a medicine cabinet for you to take in your mind mentally. So this is something that we threw together to just remind yourself of the things you can do when you're feeling like you're heading into stress and burnout. So simply, getting sun, getting sleep, water, all of those things that we've talked about today, meditating, surrounding yourself with good people.
All right, that's a wrap. So thank you, everyone. I just want to reiterate that burnout does not happen overnight. Recovery also does not happen overnight. So if you use any of these tools, it really will help you be more intentional about centering yourself and filling your cup as well. So truly, everyone here, you deserve to thrive, not just survive. So thank you so much for everyone being here. And also thank you, Sarah, for allowing me to share this screen with you. And thank you for your friendship, because your transparency has really helped me in my life, and I appreciate our friendship so much.
Thank you, Tracy. If you guys can't tell, Tracy is 1000% a faucet, and I absolutely adore our relationship. And that's, being able to find yourself with people who get it, that you can talk to about your stress and your struggles at work, at home, all of those things. So I just want to leave you with a couple of things today. Burnout does not mean you're broken. It just means you've been running too hard for too long. I also want you to know that today wasn't just about stress management, but also about reclaiming control and choosing rest over running on fumes, about building a culture that values people as much as performance. And so I just want to leave you with a couple of questions, some things to think about, which is, what is one small shift that you can make this week to start taking care of your engine, your internal engine, to keep it running? And what can you do to make sure that the people around you aren't burning out silently? So thank you guys so much for spending part of your Friday with us. It's been a joy to be up here with Tracy, and I hope you all have a wonderful week and can start doing some things to alleviate a little bit of stress.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah and Tracy. I think that was an amazing session. I could really relate to a bunch of things, so great insights there. I also just want to take a minute to say thank you to AutoIgnite Management for being a silver sponsor today at Amplify. Your support really helps make this event possible and provide all these great sessions. And for any of you who have not heard the Remarkable Results podcast, I cannot recommend it enough. I've personally heard a ton of their podcasts, and it's always action-packed, always filled with great insights. So do check out Tracy's podcast as well. And on this note, it is actually time for our entertainment break. So for all of you who are a little tired, need a small break from all these amazing sessions, you can go grab your lunch, go check out the photo booth, take out a nice picture. And we'll also be having a small fun trivia session in the auditorium. So I hope to see you guys there. Thank you so much once again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.